Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I hope you've been enjoying your week so far. I hope that you've been finding time to connect with God throughout the week, and not just God, but also connect with people around you that are like-minded and that are also trying to seek God and to get closer to Him. I want to share with you something today that is really simple, but also super important, and a lot of people miss this. I'm going to share it with you right after the intro clip.
In 2 Kings 6, starting in verse 8, the Bible tells us the story.
And basically what happens in the story is that there is a king of Aram who is at war with the people of Israel. And Elisha has been communicating with God about this war. And God has been directing him and telling him what he should tell the king of Israel to do so that they can defeat their enemy, or at least not be overrun by their enemy. But the king of Aram, he thinks to himself, there must be a traitor in my camp, because every move that I plan, somehow the king of Israel finds out about it. But one of his servants says to him, no, there's no traitor. It is a prophet of God who is telling the king even the very things that you say in your bedchambers, in your most private rooms. And so when the king hears this, he's quite angry. And he decides to send a whole army to one small village to capture the prophet Elisha. And this is what the Bible says happens. In verse 15, Elisha's servant got up early and he went out, and there was an army with horses and chariots surrounding the city that they were in. And he cried out, "Oh no, what shall we do?" He said this to Elisha. And Elisha answered, "Don't be afraid. Those that are with us are more than those that are with them." And then he prays, "Lord, I pray that his eyes will be open." And this is what it says in verse 17. The servant looked, and behold, all around the hillside were chariots of fire, the army of the Lord. And there's two simple things that I get from this passage, and the first one is this: if we're not intentional about remembering what God has done for us in the past, we can't be intentional about the way He's leading us in the present and will lead us in the future. And what I mean by that is, Elisha's servant had observed all of the miracles that had been working through Elisha, and he'd observed the way that Elisha was communicating to the king of Israel everything that the king of Aram said in his bedchambers, and yet he was still afraid when he saw the armies of Aram surrounding his city. If we don't carefully consider the way God has led us in the past, we'll lose faith in the present. That's the first thing. The second thing is this: God is fighting our battles for us. And sometimes the way He gives us victory is almost so weird that it's funny. You see, in this particular story, the way that He gave Elisha victory is He struck the army with blindness. In verse 18, Elisha prayed, "Lord, strike this army with blindness." And they did. And then Elisha went out and he told them, "You're at the wrong place." And he led them to their own city. The way that God gave them victory was not the normal way that you'd get victory from a battle. It wasn't like people being destroyed and killed. It wasn't necessarily what the servant had expected, but God still gave them victory because He was fighting their battles, and He spared Elisha and his servant and the lives of all the people in that city. And so I just want you to remember this morning, or whenever you're watching this. I want you to remember that God is fighting your battles. He's fought your battles in the past, and He'll fight your battles in the present and in the future. So if you're intentional about remembering the way that He's led you in the past, you can be intentional about your faith in the present, in the now. And if you remember that you don't have to fight the battles alone, you'll have much more peace and much more joy, and you'll be able to trust God fully. And I hope, and it's my prayer for you today, that you can trust God fully today. Thank you so much for coming around. I hope you enjoyed the video. Feel free to sub to the channel if you did. Leave us a comment. I love you all. I'll see you tomorrow. Bless. Goodbye.